Hey, what's going on everyone? How are you guys doing today? Welcome back to another Steam 2 video. In today's video we're going to be talking about getting to Fable rank in competitive as a solo player. I know a lot of you guys are probably attempting to reach Fable this season as a solo player. So I'm here to give you a couple of tips that I have learned in all the seasons that I have played some solo competitive. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. And the very first thing that we are going to talk about is playing your teammates, playing your blueberries. And what I mean when I say that is that you always want to know where your teammates are at all times. You want to look around the map, see where they are, see if they're shooting at somebody, because that can give you a lot of information. Since you don't really have communication with your teammates and can't really just peek into their mind and see exactly what they're thinking, all you kind of have to do is kind of guess what they might do and just kind of play around that. And playing around your teammates and backing them up when you think they're gonna get into a fight, or maybe your teammate has the enemies distracted, they're getting into a fight with them. You can use that distraction to go for a sneaky flank, or maybe use shoot an enemy from a different angle and win a fight that way. This is why knowing the location of your teammates is very important, so you can know when an opportunity for a spicy flank appears, so you can just go and flank the enemy and get some quick kills that way. Or even if it doesn't even work, you are putting some pressure on the enemy and it gives your teammate a better chance of actually winning the gunfight. So just kind of keep track of where your teammates are, try to stick close to them, so in the case that they get into a gunfight, you're going to be able to back them up. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to be talking about is playing your life and also knowing when you are beaten. And the second one, knowing when you are beaten, I don't really mean the game. You know, I don't mean that as soon as you see a 4-stack you just give up, or maybe you have a bad start, or your team as a whole is having a bad start at the beginning of the game. I don't mean to give up. That's the opposite of what you want to do. You always want to fight in competitive till the end. Give it your all, even when it seems hopeless, because amazing comebacks happen in competitive. That's where I have seen the most amazing comebacks. When everything just seemed lost, we somehow just managed to pull through. And they are very possible and actually happen a lot more often than you would think. So never give up on a competitive match. Always try to give it your all, even when it seems hopeless, because you never know what's actually gonna happen. And another thing, don't be afraid of 4-stacks. 4-stacks are not always super sweaty tryhards with their not forgottens. Sometimes they're just regular people that got together in LFG. So just because they're a 4-stack doesn't mean that they're automatically just gonna be better than you. They may have the communication on their side, but just because they have that doesn't mean you can't beat them. The way matchmaking works is that if you're going against a 4-stack, your blueberries are most likely gonna be of a higher skill level than the 4-stack. And with the matchmaking won't do that every time. It does seem to do it quite a lot this season, because me and the blueberries, on my win to 2100, we actually stomp quite a lot of 4-stacks. And I don't mean just beating the 4-stacks. I really do mean just stomping some 4-stacks. It was kind of weird to see, but there were a lot of games like that. So don't be afraid of 4-stacks, and don't give up on games just because you have a bad start. Alright, so now let's actually go back to where I meant before I started this rant, and that was know when you are beaten in gunfights. That's really what I mean. You won't be able to win every single gunfight. That's just not something that's gonna happen. And a lot of times you're gonna be at a big disadvantage going into a gunfight. So this is exactly what I mean when I say know when you are beaten. If you know you can't win that gunfight, just step back and don't take that gunfight. Just go somewhere else, go help out your teammates, and look for a more favorable position. This also kind of ties in pretty well into the whole playing your life. One of the most important things that you can do is staying alive. Staying alive is one of the most important things that you can do in Crucible, since if you're still alive, you can put pressure on the enemy team, and also it will build up your super, which can be used game changing, and in the right situations, it can win you a game. A single super can decide the entire game, so you want to be able to use your super as much as possible, and staying alive is definitely a good way to just get the super a lot faster. So always make sure that you find yourself in a favorable position in the gunfight. If you don't think that you have the advantage, then that should be a gunfight you don't take. And also always be kind of aware of your surroundings. Make sure that you always have some cover close to you, so in case you start getting shot you can take some quick cover and not just die immediately. You definitely don't want to be on the open for too long, so just always stay close to a wall or something that can give you cover. Sometimes it's just better to run and live another day. Next up, we're going to be talking about heavy ammo and using your supers. Heavy is something that you definitely want to have in competitive. Heavy and supers win games, so you want to be able to grab the heavy ammo as soon as it spawns and also as often as you can. If you control the heavy, you control the map, so always make sure to put some pressure on heavy when you think it's going to spawn. Even if you don't go for it right away, just make sure that the enemies don't have it either. But always try to get the heavy as soon as it spawns, because you're going to be at a huge advantage used by having the heavy. Next up, with the supers. Like I said before, the supers can be game changing, and sometimes a single super can actually decide the fate of the game. So you always want to use your super as much as you can. Don't hold on to your super for too long. As soon as you get it, look for an opportunity to actually use your super. If you start seeing a couple enemies on the map, or maybe you see that they're rapidly taking the flag, then that's a perfect time to use your super. Also, using your super to secure heavy is also not a bad idea, especially since when heavy spawns, there usually tends to be at least 1 or 2 enemies around that are going to try to stop you from taking it. So you can use your super, kill them, and then secure the heavy. And now, you didn't just use your super effectively by killing 2 people, but you also have the heavy. So that's basically how you want to use your super in competitive. Use it as often as you can, as soon as you see an opportunity. Being able to use 3 or 4 good supers a game is much better than just using 1 perfect super during the game. And one thing to keep in mind when using your super in Countdown is to never use a super on a losing round. If the entire enemy is up, they planted the bomb, and you have your super, sure, you could probably go and kill them all and maybe defuse the bomb, but it's not very likely. You're most likely just going to waste your super and lose the round anyways. You want to use your super when you think that it can give you an advantage and you can win your round. So never use your super when you're losing the round. Always use it as an opener during the round, so it can give you the advantage, so it's more likely that you will actually win that round. Alright, so now the final thing that we're going to be talking about, it's about tilt control and your mentality when going into competitive. Your mentality when going into competitive, it's a very important part of how you're going to be doing in competitive. If you think that you're going to hate competitive and you think it's going to be a terrible time, then you're already kind of setting yourself up for some failure. If you think that you're going to hate it, you are going to hate it, and it's going to be just not a good time. You got to have a good mentality when stepping into competitive and a positive attitude. And yes, there's going to be some frustrating stuff about competitive, some cheesy stuff that you go up against, could be like weapons or abilities, maybe blueberries that don't seem to know how to play competitive, and you don't even know how they found themselves at the place that you are. But the one thing that you want to do is not let the anger get a hold of you and start tilting. Once you start tilting, you're gonna start doing worse at the game. You're not gonna be thinking straight, you're gonna make bad decisions, you're gonna play worse, and then you're just gonna keep getting more angry until you decide to quit. So before you get to that point, take a step back, just take a nice deep breath, and remember that it's okay to lose matches every once in a while, as long as you are learning from some of the mistakes you have been making that match. Look at the match and you see what you could have done differently before you got into that point, and then just learn from it and apply it in future matches. Another thing that's gonna help you, stay focused and not tilt is the 2-game rule, which means that if you're playing competitive and you lose 2 matches in a row, you should just stop for the day. I think it's gonna be much better if you stick to that rule. It will help you stay concentrated, avoid tilt, and as a result, avoid dropping a bunch of points from losing a bunch of matches in a row when you're not playing to your best. So that's the biggest advice that I can give you in controlling tilt. When you start to get angry, that's exactly when you stop playing competitive, because you're gonna start playing worse and you're not playing to the best of your ability. So don't let your anger and tilt control you, and you're gonna have a much better time in competitive. Not only climbing, but also just enjoying the game a lot more. But anyways, with that, we're gonna end today's video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Leave a like you did, dislike you did, and subscribe to the channel in case you guys haven't already. If you have your own tips for solo players, make sure to leave it in the comments below. I'm pretty sure that they will all appreciate it. Remember to share the video if you think this video will help somebody else that's been trying to get to Fabled, and hopefully they will actually find the video useful. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care everyone, have a good day.